You are listening to the Practicing the Art of Small Business podcast with Shannyn Merlo and Julie Parker. Enjoy this conversation about business, leadership, and the self-awareness journey to great success.
Hello, Julie, and hello, listeners, to Practicing the Art of Small Business, episode number 58. Julie, how are you?
I'm super well. Thanks so much for asking, Shannyn. How are you?
That's very nice of you, Julie. I'm lovely. I'm great. I'm wonderful.
And
Exceptional.
as we stated, you're looking very... Oh, I couldn't say the word. It might offend somebody.
Proper.
You're looking very proper. I feel like
Yes.
possibly hopping along to church or something.
And that's everyone's cue to hop on the YouTubes to see what I'm actually wearing. But I have got my...
You could be an old-fashioned school teacher as well. Headmistress.
Well, yes. I was going to say something quite inappropriate there, and I won't. So save you on some editing, Julie.
I like the little bit of inappropriate, as you know. I'm not shy about any of that.
No, but, you know, I think our rating is PG, so it's probably best to...
Really? I'm about drinking a lot.
Apparently. Well, I think when you upload it to YouTube, you say there's no explicit content, so...
No, I say it's not designed for children.
Oh, well, let's let it rip then.
Let's go. Okay. Do your worst. I've got the beeper ready.
Well, with all that said, Julie, so nice to talk with you. It has been a little while since we did our last recorded episode. And I just love working with you. I just really find it such an enjoyable, nice experience. And I just think that you're wonderful, and I don't have a bad word to say about you ever, at all. Not at all, never.
Well, that's a
But
wrap.
I'd just like to... I'm just wondering what you'd like to talk about today, my darling, wonderful,
Well, being very, very
Julie.
nice. You've been very nice to me, Shannyn. That makes me suspicious of what your true intentions actually are. But this is the topic of today's conversation is, as managers, owners, people in charge of others, are we sometimes too nice or are we sometimes only nice, and what are the ramifications? Oh, the benefits and the drawbacks. There's certainly benefits to being nice. There's less violence.
As they say, you get more bees with honey, which doesn't make any sense. It's probably bees with sugar, but, you know, you get more
flies.
bees with
It's actually flies. You get more flies with honey than vinegar.
Oh, is that the...
I'm pretty sure.
Oh. You know, I'm good at a mixed metaphor. I put on social media this week because I said to a client that they said, oh, thank you, I feel really grateful when I talk to you, everything seems more clear. And I said, look, sometimes you just can't see the weeds for the trees. So, you know, I love a mixed metaphor. And I do need to warn while we're here that Diggity Dog, the razzling hour has started, so he's under the desk, so I may be slightly distracted every now and again. And people, again, just a reason to watch the tubes. You might see my little man razzling around, so which is quite enjoyable. So,
and again, we're talking about a dog, not a human being.
Yeah. Yes, no, it's my
Not
new
her
associate.
partner.
My new associate is under the desk, and that is why we are not appropriate for children.
That is golden. That's golden.
All right, well, back to the benefits and drawbacks of being nice. Is it just nice or too nice? Because I don't trust someone who's too nice.
I know. Let's talk about too nice first, because there are certainly things around there's evidence of being too nice, but there's also the aspect of leadership where you're only nice and you're not willing to have the hard conversations as well. So your level of niceness is fine, totally adequate, but we need to throw some other stuff in the mix as well. But when we're talking about too nice, have you got any examples of too nice leadership, Shannyn?
Well, no, because all of my experience with leaders have probably been at the opposite level. I think when we're talking too nice, I've gone to right to the opposite end of the scale, and I think that there's light and shade. In my opinion, is that there should be light and shade within leadership. I think, and maybe this is the only nice thing, and I'm answering both questions, and I'm sorry if I'm getting it wrong, but if there's too nice, then are you truly guiding your team in the best possible way? And I'm trying to think here. Let me just use my little Razzle as an example. I use positive reinforcement for him. I'm not using any kind of electrical collars or beating him or anything like that. So I do use positive reinforcement.
I think I just heard a dog say, phew.
He's like, she's taking it off. No, so I use food rewards, I use tonal rewards, I use cuddle rewards. But I do also, when he's really testing the boundaries, I'll give him occasionally a leash correction, and what that means is I will give a little pop on the leash, particularly if he's going to, go for another dog, which is one of his big issues, and if he's looking to put something in his mouth. And so, although the balance of my training with him is positive and nice and optimistic and upbeat and looking to reinforce good behaviours, every now and again, especially on those behaviours that are absolutely not tolerated, I have to go a little bit on the other side. And again, I'm not beating my dog at all. He's a guide dog. He's just,
I was allowed to.
So I think that if we take leadership at the same level, I think being positive and optimistic and looking at the good parts of our team and reinforcing those good parts and those strengths is really valuable. But if you're only focusing on that and not drawing attention to any of the bad behaviours or the behaviours that really need to be dealt with, are you being the best possible leader?
And that's what one of the aspects we're talking about is, are you only nice?
Mm-hmm.
But if we're talking about too nice, examples of too nice could be that team members in our organisation, they get 8 weeks holiday a year instead of just 4. 8 weeks.
Oh.
And I'm going to pay you more than you actually deserve. And I am going to take things to a level that you would not generally expect it all or think you deserved as an employee of a particular organisation, because it's over the top. And so when we're talking too nice, the thing that I wrote down here is fear. Because if you think about, if I was too nice as a wife, not just nice and only nice, but if I was too nice as a wife, does that mean I'm doing everything for that person and bringing the slippers out when he comes home and make sure the children are all stilled? And not that we have children, but those old-fashioned ways of those books and guides of how to be a good wife. That
you're not following that. You're not following that protocol, Julie, because
luckily he doesn't use slippers and we have no children. But would I be doing, if I did everything for him as a partner, it feels like that I'd be doing that so he wouldn't leave. I'd be doing that so I could control him in some way. And so fear might be the very basis of it. And the other thing I've got noted down here, and if you use Razzle as an example, what you were describing before, that's appropriately nice. If you were too nice, you'd feed him the minute he wanted food. And how often does he want food? All the time.
he'd be happy to.
We can love our pets to obesity and death, really. And so too nice is where we are being, we probably because of a negative intention from our subconscious, we are overloading to an inappropriate and unhealthy way the love and the affection. And if it was a boss situation, the allowances. So People will walk all over you. You'll just keep giving and giving and giving. And in essence, you end up creating the environment for overeating, overconsumption. You create an environment where everyone is taking. There is no limit to that, and no one ends up winning.
So when you said too nice, I really went more just a personality style, that style where everything is roses and everything is wonderful and everything is amazing and everything is like, yay, whereas, as you know, Julie, I'm probably more the yang to that yin, or however it goes. I'm more like the rah, rah, everything sucks, everything's and so I need a little yang to my yin. But I think it's interesting, do people who come across as too nice, are they always, and we never talk in absolutes, but are they always coming from that place of fear of not being liked and being too nice in order to compensate for this fear? Or are they coming from this place of just everything is great, everything is awesome, everything is fixable, everything is wonderful, you're awesome? Because I know that there's some people who I meet and I feel so good around them, maybe like yourself actually, Julie, where everything is like, they're like, you're amazing, you don't see your value, you're incredible, you're wonderful. And I come away going, yeah, I am. Check me out through your eyes. And I feel really good after that interaction. Now, are they being too nice? Or are they just being a genuine person who just really, like, can you have one without the other? Do you know what I mean? Can you just be really a nice person without it being fear-based?
And so the level of optimism, that's another character trait. But you're talking about being too overloading of all the compliments.
Is it fake? Is it about being fake? When too nice feels fake?
Well, why would someone give too many compliments? We're not just, because keep in mind, compliments are fine, but what you're talking about is too many compliments over and above what that person actually delivers. So instead of just, because there is nothing wrong, and this is why I was saying at the start, are you only nice? So as a leader, as a manager, and you've got people in your charge, there are some people, managers, and it's completely understandable, and it's where most of us start off with, that we are very comfortable in giving the positive reinforcement, and we are less comfortable with giving the negative managing the negative aspects to a particular performance. And so we're totally thrilled to say, you get a pay rise, you did a great job, thanks so much for all the hard work. And when that team member comes and says, I need an extra week off on holidays, or I need to take holidays here, even though it's not ideal, they're very happy to go, yep, sure, we'll just make it work. Absolutely. But when it comes to saying to that team member, your performance is lacking all of a sudden, we're not quite sure why, you didn't actually deliver appropriately on that particular project, you're taking too many days off for sick days, what's going on for you? They're less comfortable with those conversations, and so their management style ends up being only nice. They're only doing the nice stuff, and they are avoiding doing the challenging stuff. And so that's where I think that there is a problem, of course, because just like when you're parenting Razzle, just when parents manage their kids growing up through every stage of their growing up, if you are only willing to do the nice stuff and you neglect to do any of the hard stuff, again, you're creating an environment where no one can win.
Is there a way of being nice that still gets a result, though, Julie?
Talk to that. I think so. I think so.
It wasn't a rhetorical question, Julie.
I think so. Because I feel like every person can have a conversation with another person who may not be coming up to par for whatever reason and be on their side. It absolutely gets challenging if that other person has actually got an attitude problem and their intent is to be either disruptive or not understand you or not care. That's a different thing. Attitude things are different, and I think they need to be managed in a different way. But when we are having a genuine conversation around someone, and it's a difficult conversation, no, you can't have that leave, no, you can't have that pay rise, your performance is lacking, you can't have that promotion, you can have a conversation and still be on their side and acknowledge with them what it means to them and be apologetic. I wish it were different, but this is the way it is. And I don't necessarily think that's a mean conversation. I don't think that's an unkind conversation. What does Brené Brown say? To be clear is to be kind. And so I think we still can. I think it's important that we bring kindness to those difficult conversations, because without kindness, it's just harsh.
Well, I think that's the thing. We often talk about feedback, and really what we're talking about here is a leader who only gives, who avoids feedback, because inherently feedback is one of those negative things. So what we're talking about here is a leader who can give feedback from a place of love and care and empathy and understanding. But at the same time, what we're looking for is behaviour improvement, or being able to push back and say, this is not how we do it. But I'm going to say it with care and with kindness and with generosity of spirit. But it's interesting. Let me just play a thought out, and if it makes no sense, Julie's going to cut it out, so you won't hear this anyway. I moved a supplier on this week, someone who was working on a project with me, and I had shared with them across the past couple of weeks some frustrations around the project not working out well. I'd shared that I felt that our communication wasn't aligned, that I had thought I'd been clear in a couple of instructions that were not followed through with. And I got to the point where I communicated that I wanted them to end the project, but that I wanted to keep the door open for future work with each other. But I wanted to give them the feedback of where I thought there were issues, and I wanted to come from a place of improvement for myself. I think past Shannyn would have either not said anything or potentially made up, been less. What would past Shannyn have done? Past Shannyn might have actually gone in and said, you're terrible. I'm unhappy, this is terrible. I'd either go one way where it was really not aggressive, but a blanket, you are the problem. Or past Shannyn might have avoided it completely. Just been like, look, I've just changed directions, I'm really sorry, The way that I went about it was to say, here are the things that I've experienced, and tell me if your experience is different. But I want to give you this feedback because I do actually want to keep the door open for us working with each other in the future, and I want to understand how we can improve our relationship so that in the future it is better. So I came from that real feedback from an improvement perspective, and I think you've probably taught me that, Julie, that constant never-ending improvement thing. So I wanted to come in with care and compassion and understanding, but I was also very much like, I'm not happy with this, and here's what my experience was. But I still want you to feel that we're okay and worthy. And I still want you to, and I really appreciate the work that you did. This is a tango, right?
That's right.
I'm communicating, you're communicating, something's not aligning. So I wasn't nice. I certainly wasn't too nice. Could I have been nicer?
And that's the key. You know, you were willing to have that difficult conversation, but you could still be nice at the same time. But if you were only nice, there would have been no clarity in that conversation.
Do you think I would have avoided it? Do you think only nice people avoid it? They're those people who, like, stop the project or keep the project going. They, like, because it's a real avoidance strategy, isn't it?
Completely, I agree with you. And I think you've really hit on one of the other drawbacks to only just being nice and not being a balanced leader, that whenever you pick up on there might be the need for a more challenging conversation, you just turn the other way and you look over there. Meanwhile, these things keep rolling out and end up becoming bigger and bigger issues. And when you think about the nice versus mean, if for example, I had an issue with you, Shannyn, you were working in my dental practice and I didn't like the way you were answering the telephone, and I'm having thoughts about you should do it this way, this is how you could be improving and all the rest of it, but I'm too nice. I'm only nice, and so I'm not going to tell you how I feel. Does that mean that I don't see you doing the bad thing anymore? No, I still think it. But now I'm thinking bad thoughts about you and you don't even know it. And you're not given any chance to improve and rectify it. And so what happens to me? Do I start resenting you at some point and I still don't let you know about it? Isn't that mean? All of a sudden I start barking at you or coming to you with a negative energy and you don't know what the hell you've done wrong.
Well, that's why I don't trust someone who's super, super, super nice, because I'm like, inherently, you're harbouring something. You're gonna crack at some stage.
I know I'm not that good. You got something going on. You're hiding something.
Mark my words. You are gonna crack, and you're gonna turn, and you're gonna come at me with a knife or something. No. But I think that's right. There is. Unless you are that person where there are no weeds, there are no problems. And if that's the case, then gee whiz, your business is at risk. Because I do think inherently part of being a good leader is actually seeing the problems that other people don't see, seeing the issues that are risks, seeing the things that are going to affect success in the future. So if you are so optimistic that there are no problems, everything is roses, everything's great, everyone's amazing, then you're never going to get business improvement, are you?
That's right. I think the job of a business owner, of a manager, depending on the size of the business and what role you have within it, but the job of a manager is to always be solving problems. Looking for the problems, solving them, making sure the great stuff is consistent and systematized so it always happens, but solving problems constantly. Yeah. And I think too that sometimes when you can see how people fall into the trap of thinking, well, for challenging conversations, I have to be a little bit mean, I have to be a little bit harsh. It can only be done in a harsh way.
I think that comes from a lack of confidence of how to have a conversation. Yeah. So one of the things that I've just written down is quite often the people who are the nice people who don't want to have difficult conversations will say to me, I don't want to be mean or I don't want to be arrogant. And I'm like, inherent in the fact that you're saying that means that you're not. You just aren't. You're not, because the people who are mean and arrogant don't even think about them being mean and arrogant. So at least you've got some self-awareness of what you don't want to be. So it's a great starting point. But I think then it's about confidence in having a balanced conversation. God, I'm very absolute. I'm very absolute in my language today, aren't I? I quite like to use, and I've said this in this podcast before, the fuel model of coaching is a really great framework. So often if there's a difficult conversation, having a framework to rely on can help structure your thoughts and the way the conversation can go. So really, really quickly, the fuel model of coaching is frame the conversation, understand the current state, explore the desired state, and lay out a plan for success. So with that said, if you're going to have a potentially difficult conversation, it is worthwhile having some talking points, having a bit of an agenda, having a way that you want to go. And I also think that being able to set from the onset what outcomes you'd like to have at the start of the conversation can help you as a leader who's uncomfortable with conversations to give you comfort and to give you certainty as you go through it. So at the outcome, I want the person to have a clear understanding of what success looks like. I want them to feel good at the end of the conversation. I want to feel like I have shared where things are not working. I want to have a plan of how we're going to work with each other and an agreement. So with the idea of what are we working towards in this conversation, I think it can help to actually lead to those things. So if you're not confident in having some of those difficult conversations, looking at frameworks and endpoints so that you're backing yourself. I love Brene Brown, you mentioned her. I love her permission slip idea where in Dare to Lead, have I got the book? I'm sure I've got the book. Anyway, Dare to Lead, she talks, have you heard of this, Julie?
Oh, I've heard of the book, but I'm not quite sure what you're about to say.
So permission slips is that at the start of the meeting, one of her vulnerability tools are these permission slips. So it might be as dramatic as I give myself permission to get upset if I feel upset. So with that, and you share that with the other person or the other people in the room. I give myself permission to take a time out if I'm feeling like this conversation is getting too much. And you share that with the other person to say, in order for me to feel safe and for you to feel safe, here's what I'm going to give myself permission to do. So that can be really useful. I think it depends on the culture of the organisation, but I think having some sort of containers that you create to create safety for yourself and for the person you're having a conversation with is really important.
Yeah, I love the advice to develop a framework, find one, develop one of your own. But I think that reverse engineer really, I don't think a lot of us go to the space of, well, what do I want this outcome to be? How do I want us both to feel, act, think and behave and all the things? And to really clarify that and then ask ourselves, what environment do I need to create in order to have that as a likely outcome is enormously powerful. And so using some of these frameworks, because that's what it is. That's all a difficult conversation is. Comfort with a difficult conversation is proper planning and contemplation around it. And recognizing it's one of the skills that we need to do often or not regularly, but we need practice at it to get happy with it and confident with it. No one, I don't think, is comfortable unless they're a narcissist with difficult conversations at the very start. But if they don't resist them and they do them, they find them, and they're doing them with the intent to improve in that space, they do feel far more comfortable with them. And then that's where you do become that balanced leader, because you're not fearing anything now. You're just doing what's necessary. And what I've written down here as well is one of the drawbacks of being an only nice leader and not willing to have those difficult conversations. And we've identified that difficult conversations are part and parcel of the role of having a business, managing a business. So the conversations need to be done. And so if you're not going to do them, who else is? And if the answer is nobody else, that means they're just not happening, and the ramifications are vast. You'll lose good team members because they feel like people aren't being held to account. The standard will start dropping because no one's having those difficult conversations saying, remember where the bar is, come back up to the bar. And when you start losing good people, you start to lose the ability to get that team together, a group of team members that know how to do it right in that organisation. The ones that knew that are long gone. And now you're left with this group. You know it can be better. They've never experienced, they've never seen it in your organisation. So it takes a lot of imagination and hope and dreaming to bring it back up to that. And so everything ends up coming back to business viability, the patient, the client, the customer. They will absolutely feel that drop in standards, the drop in the type of people that are being employed in that organisation, and certainly being only nice or too nice will end up. It's like the death. You hear the death knell. Like you have to step it up at some point. Sooner rather than later is always better. But as you know too, I'm a huge fan of if it's all in the shit. If you've gone too far, that's okay. That's a beautiful place to start as well. We're drawing a line in the sand. things are going to be different now. And you're talking about permission slips. That's, in essence, giving permission to everyone to start behaving differently and having a different level of expectation. That's how we were yesterday. Today's a new day, and tomorrow's going to be even better. And this is the way we're going to be functioning from now on.
As you were talking, I was, again, just trying to find some really cool analogies. But it's like I wish my brain was functioning. Now I'm thinking about John West. It's the fish you reject that makes John West the best. But it's like the opposite of that. It's the behaviours that you tolerate that determines your lowest common denominator. And so if everything is roses and no one's being held account and everything is given to you, then you don't have to work for it. You don't have to do anything to achieve success. And that does mean then that you're right, the standard does drop. What's the opposite of this? Again, I really want to mix my metaphors or my analogies, but the rising tides carry all boats. Well, there's an opposite one.
Rising
which is
tides lifts all boats, yeah.
Lifts all boats. What's the opposite one where it's like it's the thing that you tolerate that's gets you lowest? I don't know. There's an analogy.
Are you thinking of you get what you tolerate?
Yes. And so if you're too nice, and that too nice is coming from that place of fear of that I'm going to be rejected if I don't give you 8 weeks of holidays and the pay rise and all the things that you want without you actually having to work for it or for the business to perform. Because if your organisation is one where you've got performance measures and one of the benefits of actually performing in an exceeding level is 8 weeks of holiday and this amazing pay, then rock on. Your business is going to be changing as a result. But if it's a case of like you do the bare minimum and you get everything you want, and it's actually not an even playing field either, because it's an arbitrary, you ask for it, you get it, doesn't matter what your performance is, then we are then starting to tolerate behaviours that are not the highest standard. And what that means then is everyone then lowers to that standard, and the people who are not accepting of that lower standard are going to leave. I'm literally just saying exactly what you said, Julie, but I'm saying it with way more words in the hope that actually I get more airtime. That's the only point of that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say exactly what you were saying, but I realised I was saying it after I said it, so I'm really sorry.
It just proves how important a point it is and how easy standards can go out the back door real fast. The other thing I noted down here was the example that you're setting, or the expectation that you're setting with all the other team members. And so if you are, it's only ever roses kind of gal, kind of leader, what are you saying to the rest of your team members? What's the unspoken message that bad news is not discussed here? That's not welcome here.
Don't come to me with mistakes. Don't come to me with anything that's bad. I don't want to la 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 la. That's, again, for people who are not watching, I just stuck my fingers in my ears and did the whole la la la, I'm not listening, not listening. Yeah. And well, that breeds a whole environment of hidden problems that then become much bigger problems because we're not talking about it. Sounds like my family.
Yeah. Here comes that couch. Take a seat. It's all there for you. And another area that I think is an interesting one to take note of as well is self-respect. If we're constantly shying away from difficult things in life, it does affect our own level of self-respect, confidence, competence, how we perceive ourselves. And when we do tackle the hard things and go through those difficult times to achieve better results, that boosts our self-respect, confidence, self-confidence, etc. So there is certainly a personal cost to it as well.
So how can you be nice, but in a way that still generates improvements, self-respect, drives performance. How do you do it, Julie?
You do it by reading all of Brené Brown's work.
Don't ask us. We have no idea.
But always managing people with a win-win mentality.
Mm-hmm.
To be clear is to be kind, and to be unclear is to be unkind. Always with empathy and always with respect. That, to me, is kindness.
And I want to add to that, having clear boundaries for yourself, because I think that the biggest risk of being the nice guy or girl without boundaries, based on fear, based on people are not going to like me, is the risk is people do walk over you and people can take advantage of you, and it's the boundaries that you set around your acceptable, what's acceptable and not, that helps to, I think, bolster that self-respect. And I do believe, like, leadership really is about clear is kind. That's about communication. Having empathy is really about seeing the world through the other person's lens. And the win-win, it's the win-win-win situation. It's the third, it's what's his name, Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey. It's the third alternative, is really looking at, like, how can we get to a place where we're all happy here? And that's all just key leadership skills. So I think really the answer to the question of how do you be nice and still have improvement is to invest in those things of improve how you set your boundaries, understand how to have a conversation that is productive and empathetic, how to show empathy. You can learn how to do empathy, and how to communicate in a way to understand what does that other person need and want, so that I can understand what winning is for you, with also understanding what winning is for me, and so that we can reach a mutually agreeable win.
Yeah, that's it. And the only times that doesn't work, as I said earlier, is when there's an attitude problem. And when you're dealing with somebody, pardon? And when you're dealing with somebody with an attitude problem, that's a different conversation. That is you identifying specifically, your response here, you're this, and that day, on that day, and that day. This is what I'm noticing. I'm feeling like there's been an attitude shift for you. What has been going on for you? What do you think about what I've just said to you? And if they're very obtrusive, and like, yeah, you can go get stuffed and all the things, then I don't think we're a fit any longer. And I think it's just going to be a good thing for both of us to free ourselves of each other, because the attitude that you have got about us, we've obviously been unsatisfactory in your eyes for various reasons for whatever period of time, and it's now at a point where it needs to break. We either move forward powerfully together. Do you see yourself being able to do that? No? Well, break.
Don't let the door hit you in the A on the way out. Bye-bye. Well, with all of that said, Julie, do you think it's time for a wrap it up?
Yeah.
Alrighty. There are benefits and drawbacks to anything. There's a risk that being too nice or only nice is that people can take advantage of that, especially if you're a leader in the business. One of the risks also is to think about, are you being too nice or only nice from a place of fear of not being liked? And what is the cost that is bringing to the business and to your personal self-respect? Are people walking over you and not showing respect? Does showing a level of too much optimism equal being too nice? Not necessarily, because being optimistic can actually come with a balanced viewpoint of that there are still issues, but we can fix them, which is a great leadership trait to have. When giving feedback, do it in a way that it comes from a place of love and care and compassion and empathy, so you can still be nice while giving feedback to someone, and understanding that there's a person who has feelings behind that and they probably might get hurt as you give that feedback. But if you're coming from a place of love and care, then you're doing the best you can for that person. If you've got a difficult conversation and being too nice or only nice is difficult for you, think about the outcome that you want to achieve at the end and set things up at the start so that you work towards that outcome. There's a risk that being too nice or only nice is that you will end up dropping the standards overall. You'll lose good people and you'll lower the standards of the business, which there's nothing good about that. And in order to be nice and achieve great outcomes, be sure to manage your people with a win-win attitude. Be clear is kind in your communication, show empathy and set great boundaries. And that's my wrap for today. Was there anything else that you wanted to include in my glad wrap?
Wicka, 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 wicka. Like the wrapping of the LP.
I got it.
You're old enough to do it. That's good. I think young people still do that. I think that's what DJs do. Do they still go wicka, wicka, wicka?
No, Julie. And I say that coming from a place of kindness and love and generosity of spirit, and understanding that that might hurt you, realising that you're no longer in touch with the youth.
You're so far from the youth. Now, that was beautiful. Thank you for another interesting conversation, Shannyn.
Thank you so much. It's so lovely to be recording with you again. It has been a little while, but I mean, we've been speaking, but we just haven't put the recording on, but it's been delightful.
Delightful indeed. I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a fantastic period of time until the next recording.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.